All right, welcome to a silver lined relaunch. And you know those days that you wake up and you're like on fire. You are just like everything is going awesome. Well, the reason things are going so awesome in so many different ways, not just because of the guest I have, but because of what she has helped me become in the neurospace. So today I have Dr. Shannon. She is my mentor. I've been working with her directly for almost a year, and it is so exciting to have you on the show. You're listening to the Silver Lined Relaunch, and I'm your host, Hillary DeCesar, award-winning entrepreneur and transitional coach. Each week, I'll invite you to tune into inspirational stories, revealing how you too can turn ordinary experiences into the extraordinary. Feeling stuck? I'll share step-by-step strategies to fuel your ability to experience a life where silver linings are both abundant and possible. Dr. Shannon, welcome.
I'm so excited to be here and to talk all things silver lining today.
Well, you know what is awesome about this experience also is that for me, I've been able to share with you my journey, my relaunches. You've helped me with your processes, really kind of allow me to relaunch easier, faster, and in a better way so that these darn things that you call ants don't keep popping up. Well, we're going to talk about that later. But what I'm really curious about is knowing you have all the degrees, knowing you have all the backing, you too have had significant relaunches.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd love for you to share kind of your most defining one and walk us through your journey around it and the silver linings that have come from it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's super important to know this is so common, but doesn't get talked about online. So I love that you're championing
Champing.
this, because we see the highlight reel. We were talking about that before we get started. And so when I founded my business, and the whole story of how I developed the neuro coaching model happened through the PhD rooms and honestly my desperation of getting to where I needed to go. But that happened. And then I started coaching one-on-one, was starting to help one-on-one. And these guys are, crushing it, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. I didn't actually have to really explain what I did because it was like word of mouth. This is my business performance coach, and she's got this crazy neuroscience backed, process that's helped me. And so I really didn't have to actually communicate what I did. But I got that big vision, like this needs to be in the hands of every entrepreneur out there. They need to understand how their mind works, how the systems work in the brain, and how they can tap into those and hack into those in a way that makes success inevitable and neutralizes and erases those things that have been holding them back for years, maybe the most of their life. Because I wasn't a special unicorn and my one-on-one clients weren't either, right?
Are you saying I'm not one of those? Gosh,
know, right?
But I do want to be that unicorn business. Well, I really do. I want to be the outlier.
Entrepreneurs on a whole are the unicorns, but I knew that my brain wasn't that special one, and neither were theirs. So I thought I was just going to be able to come online and tell people what they needed to do and launch things out there. And everybody would be like, I got to be in. And that's not what happened. So I did what most people do. I found a strategy. I followed the strategy and I put it out there. And the first time I put this out there, now granted, over 12 or 13 years worth of my business offline, I was multiple 7-figure business owner. But I have this mission and this vision that isn't going to get accomplished unless people online see me and connect and want to get in. And I launched the webinar and we had a great show up and everybody thought it was great. And only 10 people bought.
And for some out there, they're like 10. That sounds pretty darn good. But question for you. So how long ago was this?
That was, let me think. I want to actually answer that question and not just give you a random day. That was 6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Which I love to hear this. And I love to put this in perspective for people that yes, you had this amazing degree
Yeah.
and you had been doing it offline. You'd been coaching, you'd been having success, but then you decided, I really want to do this in a bigger way, help more people, but you hadn't done that model yet. And so you tried it. And for you were thinking a lot bigger than 10.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I had, like 2,000 people show up to the webinar. So if you do that math, it was not good. Right now, knowing what I know, I could have gone down the rabbit trail of what that meant and why this is too hard. And I could have made all the stories about it. But because of the neuro coaching model, I knew, okay, that's just information. And the information that it was telling me, it was helping me understand what people heard, what people saw, and where the message was landing and where it wasn't landing. So I did another one. And then I did another one. And so each time I would see when people would lean in, and I'd see when people would glaze over, right? And because it was never about me, like I didn't let the ego get involved, but I would be lying if I told you that it didn't hurt, that it didn't crush me, because I really wanted these tools in the hands of the people that need it most. You guys, the entrepreneurs, the change makers in the world. Like, imagine if every one of your entrepreneurs, Hillary, actually stepped into the biggest version of themselves. What a different world we would have right now. Right.
Well, and what I love about and I remember the first time that I was introduced to you, what you were saying is that you wanted to impact coaches that could then go out and serve their clients with your model. And that is so impactful, because you're going not this you to many, you're going you to individuals that then are going to even spread it bigger, which I love that. And then one of the things that when I first heard about you and I've been a coach for over 25 years, I had my own model that I worked on for 10 years with, a very famous gentleman in the neuro space. And when I heard that there was this one piece in your model, I was not tapping into it at all.
Right.
And I thought, wow, if I'm not tapping into this to give to my specific clients, I'm not tapping in to give to myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was the biggest eye opener. I'm like, wait a second. I want to provide the best ability for people to, get rid of their limiting beliefs, not just for a short amount of time, as you always explain, but, forever, and not have to keep coming. But you being in this position where the success didn't just happen. This is so typical that never is talked about out in the real world.
It's not. And I wish it was, because then you would realize you're doing great. Like, you're doing good. Just stay in action, and that's the thing. Even though it was disappointing, even though like my heart was a little broken, all of those things, and still keep going. And that's what I did. I kept doing more webinars, and then I would learn something different. And then a few more would buy. And then I think in that year that I brought the business online, I think I did something like 29 or 30 webinars. I mean, oh
my God. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, oh.
And the reason why was, and you know this from being in the neurocoaching certification, is the why was stronger than my will to give up. My why was stronger than my will to give up. And that's a key component that I know you help people with, is it's not just like write your vision and write your why. That's going to keep you up here. Right. But my why, and we go through a process, and the process, but it wasn't, I wanted to help people. And I want to help entrepreneurs. I have a big mission to see 100,000 coaches become neurocoach certified, because then they're going out and they're changing the world. That is a huge desire of mine. And then if you keep asking me why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that important? It really gets down to, because I want my kids to grow up in a world where they know that they have the tools to get to whatever they want, and no does not become an answer for them. And that can't happen unless more people get that training and more people go out and help people with it. And then the educators get that training and they're getting not indoctrinated, but they're understanding how the brain works. I could go off on this. So that fuel let me like lick my wounds, put the Band-Aids on and go, come on, little buddy, let's go again. And, I wouldn't I need you to hear this. Especially if you're going through this, I wouldn't do anything different if I could do it all over again. Because what I learned in that process of communicating in a way, it got me obsessed with the brain science of selling and how do people hear your message. And then I got to do research around that. Just what we look at as a failure is actually the catapulting to your next place to go. We're doing research right now. We're to shoot for the Guinness Book of World Records, like the most entrepreneurs ever studied on this idea of how they process differently than the rest of the world. And a lot of really cool research that we're doing. That wouldn't have happened had I not noticed in those webinars that I was telling them the solution. I was literally laying it out for them, like, here, this is what you need to do. And then I, through that process, realized, no, that's not what we buy. We buy, solve my problem, make this pain go away, make this desire that I have come faster and easier. And I couldn't have got there any other way. Remember, I didn't have to tell anybody what I did. So it was this cathartic, like, okay, now I'm learning this. And yes, a few more people would buy. And please hear me. It's not about buying and people buying. When I say that word buying, to me, that is one person saying yes to themselves, one more than the time before that, right? That it's not yes to my program. It's a yes to their future. It's a yes to their vision. It's a yes to their business and launching like a coach launches instead of like everybody else does. So it's different to me. And I have no problem with making money because money creates impact. And I know we're going to talk about that too, but we look at these moments where things aren't going the way we want them to go. And we compare it to people's highlight reels when they've hit 7 and multiple 7 figures. And we think, what's wrong with me? And the reality is you're just not seeing all the moments that they were having those same thoughts. And
a lot of times they're not even talking about it.
Oh, no.
They're on social, they're saying, oh yeah, I'm now doing 6-figure launches and I'm here and I'm this. And oh yeah, I had a little bit of a struggle.
No.
I mean, look at you.
I was crying in the morning before my next webinar. Let's just be real. I'm human.
You were the webinar queen. I mean, my goodness, I haven't heard someone do it. Yeah, it's awesome. But one thing I do want to ask you though, is people are starting to get confused about what is the difference between a coach that's out there to help you change your mindset and a coach that's out there for that neuroscience. Can you give us like, I've had this question asked so many times, like, hey, are we just going to be manifesting or are we actually like doing something different? Can you help us all gain clarity around this?
All I got to say is reel me back in if I go too far.
Okay.
So there are a lot of great, well-meaning coaches out there that went through something, put up the shingle, said, I'm a coach, and they are using broken processes to try to help you transform. Let me land this for you. You'll be in a coaching call and you won't be where you want to be in your business. And they'll tell you, well, that's because you're not doing blah, 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 blah. And if you just do it this way, do it exactly like I'm telling you to do it, it will work. And so what happens is on the call, they're like, yes, I can do it. I feel great. And you feel great because you've gotten those endorphins from them saying you're great, ego things going on there. And then they get off the call. And then with their neural networks, they go try to do what you said for them to do. And because their brain is not wired like your brain has created different networks that are governing your actions and decisions. They go try to do it. And guess what? They can't. Because all those automations, those negative thoughts, those limiting beliefs are actually telling them to stop and not do it. And so what happens is then now Now it's almost worse. It's almost like they've caused harm because there is obviously on the call a clear path, and you're an intelligent person and you get off the call and you try to follow the clear path and it won't work for you. And so what do you feel now? Better? No. You feel worse about yourself. You feel like you're a failure and you feel like, what's wrong with me? Why am I broken? It works for her, it works for him, and it doesn't work for me. And it's not that even that coach's fault, because they're just doing what they've seen mirrored and parroted in an industry that doesn't require certifications. It doesn't require any type of where you go in and you get followed and you get, made sure that you're coaching. That's different than the neurocoaching model, where that is the brain science of transformation, the brain science of success. This is how your brain gets successful and transforms and
keeps it going. That's the best part. It's not like it's a one and done.
No.
You end up realizing, as you shared with me, is that it's not just one or two limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a whole, and as you were the first one to say, hey, I still have limiting beliefs that you are taking through your mind matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this, Hillary. Like I said, I'm sure that no coach means to cause harm, but once you can't unknow this, right? There is a way your brain wires success and failure and worth and money stories and all of that kind of thing. And it's based on specific automations in your mind. Now, the good news is it's super simple to go through the process to neutralize and erase things that aren't serving you and actually flip a success switch on, like build a network in your brain for success. But it's not through tricky language patterns, and it's not with try harder and just do my process. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a surgical wound. Does it help? Maybe. But is it actually getting to the root cause and transforming that person, not for the moment, but for the rest of their lives, with tools that they can take forward with them to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, so they never are in a situation where they feel like they cannot overcome and create whatever they want in the world. And ultimately, as coaches, I heard your heart earlier, our heart is to help people get to where they want to go and support them through that process. And to me, there is no more powerful, faster, easier, more step-by-step than going through the neurocoaching model, because it's like a set of tools or a roadmap that actually shows you how your brain wires, how it unwires, and how you can get in and neutralize and erase anything that gets in your way. So it gives you the control back as a human being going through a human experience, growing your business, and allows you to see. Now your coach, your neuro coach, their expertise is being able to help you see your own blind spots. We're too close to our own stuff. I'm too close to my own stuff. I have a coach. I will never, ever, ever.
No doubt. I have two coaches. You being one of them. Yes,
I've got an army. Like I do. And I'm very specific about that. I don't need them to tell me strategies. That's not what I'm asking them to do. I'm just saying, tell me when you hear a blind spot that I'm too close to see. Once I have the blind spot out in the open, the neurocoaching model does the rest. And I get some support around that. So that's the difference. It's not that it's a broken coaching industry. It drives me absolutely nuts. I think every single coach needs to be neurocoach certified, because you gain so much confidence when you know it doesn't matter what problem, desire, whatever they bring to me. I know that I can get them to that result, because it's just a matter of how the brain is wired. So that is the difference. And I'll step off my soapbox, but yeah.
Well, I do love, I have to say, when you gave us all the ability to say, you're not a failure if you're trying to just affirm your way into success.
Right.
You're not, because you can't be successful with just your mindset. You have to understand neurologically what's really going on. As you said, there's a process. One thing I would like to make sure that people realize, because I think that there's another myth that you do so well debunking, and that is this 21 day is
Oh,
just a bunch of BS. 21 days to, create a habit, 21 days to make you just into this incredible person.
yeah.
Tell us what's really going on.
Yeah. Okay. So 21 days, and it was well-meaning. Scientists put out a lot of research that said at 21 days, there's neutrality in the neural networks. What that means is at 21 days, your new neural network or process, or let's call it habit, is equal to the old one. Now, so if I was looking in your brain, we would see a new network being built toward the habit or the success or the dream or the vision or whatever it is. And you'd also still see, now remember, the old one prior to this was like a freeway. It was on autopilot. You weren't even making decisions on your own. It was firing 90% of the times, creating your decisions, actions, and results, 90%. So it was on autopilot. Didn't have your permission to be on autopilot, probably happened from youth. And it was running the show. We know that hands down from science now, 90% of our daily actions and decisions come from our automated subconscious programmed mind, not our prefrontal thinking cortex mind that makes decisions.
Okay, so make sure everyone really got that 90% of what you do every day is on autopilot.
On autopilot.
I mean, we all think we're making all these big decisions, but we're not.
We're not. So when we're at 21 days, and if you've been brain priming, which is part of the neurocoaching model, and you've been doing the mind matrix, which is part of erasing, we would see the structure of the old network starting to crumble, but still existing at about the same strength as the new network. This is why you go on a diet for 3 weeks and you think you got it, and you fire your trainer, and then all of a sudden I'm back eating a cheeseburger. It's not your fault. It's just there's a deeper groove for the old thought pattern. So what happens is 0 to 21, you're building the new network. The old one is crumbling, right? But it's not gone. 21 to 45 days is when this network is really getting strong. And if I'm looking at it over here, it's really decaying, like LA freeway style. Like it's just like falling apart. Well, Hillary got that one, but it's definitely. Like it's breaking up. You can barely drive on it. So it's still there, but it's really weak, really, really weak, and hard to fire that thought. And the new thought is much easily fired. But we call this compound interest in the brain. Something magical happens. It's science, but it's magical between day 45 and 67. We call it the brain's compound interest, where it's almost like it goes on hyperspeed, building the strength of the freeway toward the thing you want and eliminating this thought so much, decaying it and neutralizing it. So that the process is called synaptic pruning, where the pathway that was once on autopilot no longer is even operable. It's prunes. So it prunes so far apart that the thought can't fire. That's when you're on automation. And that's when your brain automated toward the thing that you want the most is running 90% of your daily decisions, actions, and results. And that's the magic right there.
That is something that very few people know and realize. And every New Year's resolution, everyone's like, woohoo, going and doing this. And 21 days, I'm good. And then you're not. So now you all know what is really going on. And one of the things that I always found fascinating when I started to, and again, I've been working on my own ants for a long time, and you pulled something out of me where it was this feeling like I was trying so desperately to prove to everybody, like, prove to my dad I could do this, prove to and I was feeling like I never was there. Like I never could get to that point where it's like, attainable versus fulfillment. And I think that one thing that you helped me so much is to realize that I don't have to constantly be on the treadmill. I don't have to. And that there is a point where, my limiting belief was that I just had to keep going. I had to keep going. I had to keep going, because if I didn't, I wasn't going to be worthy. I wasn't loved. I would be abandoned. I mean, it was like, you got into heavy duty stuff, this whole process. Yeah. But once I really took it to that next step, and I do want to mention that step that I think is absolutely invaluable in your process, once I put what I was thinking, my limiting belief, and I mirrored that
Yeah.
onto, and I actually chose my daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, floodgates opened,
Yeah.
just hysterically crying. Can you explain that part of the process and what was going on with me?
Yeah, sure. So we have something called negativity bias. It's in our base brain. It helped us not get eaten back in the day, right? So we wanted back in the day when we were trying to survive in the wild, think about back caveman days. We wanted to see everything that was negative in the environment because they could eat us, right? So now it's the negativity of going live, or it's the negativity of launching. It can't eat us, but it's the same to your brain. So we see 9 times more negative than we do positive. And the example of this is, how about your best friend or your kids or whatever? You would never, ever say to them the things you say to yourself. You would never, the limiting beliefs that you have, the stories that you're telling yourself, if you spoke those out over that person, you'd say that was a bunch of BS. Like, there's no way they could do anything they wanted, but you would defend them. I always say, especially when it comes to my kids, I'm super compassionate and super sweet, but you hurt my kids, I'll cut you. Like, I'll go to jail. Right.
Yeah.
So what we do is we take and we, in order to see truth, right? The limiting belief, the thing that's been holding you back, this automation, it's a lie. You didn't choose it. It was on automation from young. You didn't have the prefrontal cortex to say that's a lie. It is a lie. So now you're an adult getting to hear that for the first time. And just like Hillary said, you can write down what you're saying to yourself and you can logically kind of refute it like a lawyer would, but in the end of the day, still feel like it's almost true, right? You still embody it. And so what I have my students, my clients do is imagine taking that lie that you've written down. Now, not general lies, like the actual words you're telling yourself. That's a whole process. But I had you take that and put it on the person that you love the most, which was, your daughter at the time. And what happens to us is, first of all, we choke on it, actually saying it out loud. We don't say it to them physically, but in a room out loud, and saying it. And so I know it just wrecked you, but what comes from that is the truth. She could do anything. And I'm sure it was pages and pages and pages and pages of the truth that we have a hard time seeing for ourselves, about ourselves, because of that negativity bias, right? So it allows you to really see the truth in opposition to the lie that has been keeping you safe and familiar. Remember, that's what your brain, that's its wiring. Without going in and actually unleashing it and knowing the systems, it's always going to keep you alive and right where you are. And that's what was happening. It was just keeping you, you didn't want to be found out, unworthy and all those things. And so it's like kept you playing a smaller game than you obviously have the capacity to do. This woman is meant to be on the biggest of big stages. So seeing her like really release into it and doing that work. And I think that's when your aha happened. It's like, oh, this is not happening. This is not on my watch. Right.
Oh, it was just, the tears were flooding. I'm like, and you explained it later that about the emotional part, it wasn't just logical. I was hitting logical. I was hitting the emotional, like if my brain were under, a scan, you could see it lighting up in all different areas you said. And I'm like, I could feel it. I'm like, oh my God.
We do, when we're looking at a truth versus a lie, we write stuff from that very logical part of our mind. And especially as entrepreneurs, we're high control people. We're like, oh, I can see it. And you're like kind of probably bullet pointing it, right? Because that's how we are. But it's hard to tap into the emotion of it, right? It's like, we just want to go fast. We don't really want to slow down long enough to speed up, right? But it just takes that little bit of slowing down and doing that work on the mirror work really does help you see the emotional part that you would never put on your own children or spouse or best friend or whomever. And it allows you to see the truth, and the truth sets you free.
The truth does set you free. Because honestly, I felt, again, as you said, this is not a get certified in, in 21 days.
No.
It is a year course. It takes you that long to really, embrace and work and understand how to impact others. And I mean, as we're winding down with this, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can see it with my own clients, how much they are just, I call it belief blasters, just blasting through. It's just incredible. Now, as I usually start to wrap up, I always like to do a little rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And this has been so good, but I would like to understand, what do you think are the number 1, 2 limiting beliefs that you see in entrepreneurs?
Oh, I love this question so much. One of the biggest ones that I see is, who am I? Who am I? Who am I to do this? Who am I to speak to that? Who am I to launch this thing? Who am I? Our worth tied, our who and our do get mixed up. What I do, what I'm doing in the world, and my value, who I am, my worth. Again, automation from youth, not your fault, but who am I to do this? Who will listen to me? That those two things go together. They're not separated to me.
Dr. Shannon, that's so good. Your who and your do get mixed up.
Yeah,
that
they do.
Is incredible.
Yeah,
yes, they do.
Yeah. And it's a matter of unwiring that, in separating those two things. But the other one, it's all, I have to bring it up. It's around money and our stories about what money is, what money isn't, what it makes you, good person, bad person, greedy, unspiritual, all the things, depending on your origin story. You have a story about money. And now, as entrepreneurs, what we do is we exchange a service or a product for money. So when we're going out and we're selling something and we have a belief that money doesn't grow on trees and I got to work hard for my money and I got to put in all the hours, that's the only way I can deserve this. But yet at the same time, money is evil and it's the root of all evil and it's greedy and all those things. And now you're showing up and you're going, hey, buy my thing. Guess what? You're asking for your client to believe in you more than you do. It won't happen. Their brain will send up all the signals to stop them because there won't be congruence there. So we got to get entrepreneurs. I had to go through it. You've had to go through it. I continue to go through it as we're getting closer to that 8-figure mark. I'm going through it again, but we've got to really understand what money is and truly choose the story that you believe about it. Unpack the stories from the past. What money is, what money isn't, what does it make you mean? What does it mean when you have it? What does it mean when you don't have it? What does it mean that you have it and you're a believer? What is it? Whatever, whatever your story is, and understand that it's a tool. It's a tool like a webinar program is a tool. It's a tool with that video camera that I'm staring at as a tool. It's a tool. It is the reason why that feels so foreign to most people is because that's not what they heard growing up. And whatever you heard growing up and all the things around it is on autopilot, running 90% of your decisions, actions, and results. And it is directly tied to your ability to create sales in the marketplace. So we got to move this forward.
So great. Yeah. I mean, there are so many nuggets in there. Wow. So one thing that I have mentioned is I have such a great respect for you and admiration of what you are putting out there. And, again, been doing the coaching thing for so long, have certifications coming out of my ears, but this certification, this ability to really get to the neuroscience behind a lot of what I have, been from a textbook, from psychology major, what I've been leaning into. It takes my coaching business to like levels I never dreamed about. So I want to say thank you to you, but I also want to understand, who do you admire so much these days? Who do you respect? Who's somebody that you're like, I think that you are doing, cutting edge things. Who do you think is doing things like that as well?
Wow. What a great question. It's probably going to be across the board. People maybe not heard of because they're not in the online space, some scientists and their cutting edge work. I'm always studying optimization, right? So optimizing the brain, optimizing the body, optimizing all those things. So, wow, I'm rarely stumped. I think my faith kind of guides me too. And so I'm always looking at how anybody in the industry is just walking out their authenticity, right? So I see some people that are not trying to put on the clothes of another entrepreneur, but truly stepping into who they are and living through the resistance of the judgment and all that stuff, just to be who they really, really, really are. So some of the people that are doing that in the marketplace, Jennifer Allwood's one that comes to mind. So I see that. Chalene Johnson's one that comes to mind off the top of my head. Pat Flynn.
So good. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
But I liked how you put it too. It's the ones that are really stepping in and being, not putting on, taking off like the emperor's, new clothes, where you just take it off and you're like, hey, this is me. This is what I got. So I love that. And then I always like to ask, what is your favorite beauty product and the name of it? Can you come up with that?
That's easy. That was my easy one. So a dear friend of mine, Erin Sanderson, has a product line called Skin. I'm obsessed.
Ooh, it's got to be good if you're obsessed. Okay.
It is all natural. She used to be called Fit Rock Chick online, and now it's Erin Sanderson. She has a clothesline. Oh, I was just wearing the jacket yesterday. She does skin and clothes. She has a jacket, a camo jacket that says "Soul Not for Sale" on the back.
Oh, that's so good.
So much. So let's just say, and she's been in the industry for a long time. It's all natural oil-based skincare, pure as pure can be. And
awesome. And we'll put this in the show notes so that people can. Yes.
Yeah. You got
absolutely.
Great question.
Very, very cool. And another that as we're wrapping up here, I know that you are passionate about giving back. And I am actually passionate about what you're passionate about, and have taken a lead through you to get involved in your organization. And my kids are now involved, which I'm so excited. But can you share with us about Mosaic and what you're doing there?
Yeah. So 16 years ago, I would say I was 5 when I started, but I can't pull that off.
You and me both, right?
We founded an organization called Mosaic Vision. We help kids who have lost mom and dad to AIDS in rural Uganda. And these are kids who are in a child-headed home. So imagine a 12-year-old, through no fault of their own, having to become the mom, the dad, the primary caregiver to 5 younger kids. That's what AIDS has done in sub-Saharan Africa. Probably heard of it before. What you haven't heard, or the untold story, is child-headed homes. In Uganda specifically, they've cured AIDS. It's down to 5% in their main capital. It's still 42% prevalency rate where we work. So what works gets kept in the city, and then the people on the outskirts, the people of the country, don't get the same things. And so we do things a little bit differently because, it's an entrepreneur who founded a nonprofit. So of course, we don't want to create dependency there. We are not interested in our egos being stroked. We go there. We're operating there for 16 years. We have team on the ground there. And the goal, we hire widows to move into the homes with them to help them become kids again. We want to help restore their childhoods, not give them everything, help restore their childhoods. And so we help them become adults that can generate income for themselves, who can have pride, who can just be the best version of them, whether they become a doctor or they're the best salesperson for meat in the city. It doesn't matter. That part matters less than them growing up into becoming that fulfilled adult, living their best life. And we do that through one-to-one sponsorship. Somebody here sponsoring one orphan there. We started with 2 kids, Daniel and Dorcas, 16 years ago. And now we've helped over, I think we're at 1,222 orphans to date. And
I just got chills on that.
Yeah, so cool. And Daniel, our first child, is actually part of our team giving it back.
That's
2 people, actually, Alex and Daniel. Daniel is our first child. Alex was child number 12. And they are giving back. And so making wild success online allows me to cover the administration costs of the nonprofit. And what that does is it allows anybody who donates, anybody who sponsors a child, does one-time donations, whatever they do, 100% gets to go out and help the kids directly.
I want to say that again, 100% goes out into the field.
That's the power of money being a tool, because, you know, it's our dream to kind of be, we call it reverse tithing. It's our dream to ultimately live on 10% of our income and give 90% away. And so that's what my husband and I are kind of moving into and gearing towards. So the first step is covering the administration cost, and then we're just continuing to move. And so, yeah, it's a joy, it's a heartbreak, and it's a joy all at once. But I love knowing that what seems like just a drop in the ocean of what we can do, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 sponsorships, maybe an annual donation or something. It's like the ocean is made up of drops, right? And so that's where the Mosaic name came from. It's not me, it's us, showing those kids that someone loves them and they matter.
Well, and what you've done for our family is I've been with my daughter, my youngest daughter, we both picked the child together, and it was Florence. We've been, I think, sponsoring her for might be upwards of now 5 years.
Maybe,
but
yeah.
my older kids saw that we were getting letters, and everyone listening, I mean, these letters there's pictures, you get to see them, like, you know, there's photos, there's like, you know, what she's going through right now. And then we write back letters. And so it's this wonderful, you know, ability to really feel connected. Yeah. And it was something that as my kids were going off, I said, hey, one thing that I really want you to make sure you're doing is, how are you going to be giving back in more than just a check, more than how can you impact a life? And they both were like, I'm in. And the fact that they're communicating, they're writing, it's not just the check, it's this feeling of you're part of it. So if anyone listening right now who has kids in their households, get a sponsored child. It is impactful for not just you as an adult, but your kids as well. And it will continue on. So that is terrific. So Dr. Shannon, how can people find out more about you and follow you? And if they're coaches, get involved in this outstanding program?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So the Epic Success Podcast is my podcast. So if you're already a podcast listener, jump over there. If you're a coach, come in and apply to the neurocoaching certification. And what I want you to do is I want you to tell me you heard from Hillary. That I want to know that, because we always take care of people who have been personally recommended by somebody who's on the inside. So do that. And we're starting I don't know when this is going to air, but we're starting a new cohort here in mid-June. So it's perfect timing. And we always have cohorts going. So you just apply, get your name in there. It's first come, first serve. And then I'm on the socials at Dr. Shannon Irvine. So Instagram is where I hang out. My team's everywhere else. So if you want to connect with me there, that's where I'm at.
Well, thank you. You are terrific. Everyone who is thinking about it, jump on over there, get involved in this program. And if you do it soon, you'll actually see me graduate. Yes. So how awesome is that? I'm going to have a graduation in June. It will be virtual.
We can give you a link to put in the show notes so that they can get there directly. And how cool would that be if some of your tribe end up
that would be awesome.
Be there to support you.
That would be great. All right. Again, thank you so much wisdom. Appreciate it so much, you taking the time.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Silver Aligned Relaunch. If I said something today that resonated with you, will you please head over to iTunes right now and leave us a 5-star review and share this episode with others and help them find the silver linings as well. And don't forget, you can have immediate access to the show notes, any giveaways, and the links to those amazing beauty products at therelaunchco.com/podcast. Until next time, there's always a silver lining, And now is the time to hit the reset button to relaunch those transitions into transformations.